Yeah, we here. We're here. I don't know if my mic is on. We'll find out. This is a channel that no one knows about. So I'll probably post this later and then people will see it later. But let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to do something here. I don't know how to. I'm still so new to all this live stuff. Let's see. All right, whatever. Messages coming in. Kill these messages. All right. All right, cool. So this is my channel that, well, one of the channels. You know, I got so many YouTube channels and stuff. This is one of the ones that no one really knows about. So I figured this would be good to share the kind of message that I'm going to share right now. And then, you know, not everybody will see it. It's not really for the general audience. 1 second. I could be a little sloppy on this channel. All right, cool, man. Can you guys hear me? Let me know before I start sharing. Somebody put it in the chat if you can hear me. All right. And if I don't see it in the chat, then I know you can't hear me. Yes, I can. Okay, cool. Thanks, Katie. Appreciate it. Yeah, man. I don't know. I just had some ideas that came to me, and I wanted to put them up real quick, but maybe not necessarily put them up for general consumption. So give me a second. I'm over here. See, even though it's what 12:30 a.m. on the East Coast, it's still because I work with so many different clients and people around the world. It's still it's still on and popping for me. So I'm still answering emails and giving work assignments and going over, you know, proposals and stuff like that. So, you know, it's still popping. But yeah, man. We're doing really good with the red wrap piece, man. We've actually met our minimal goal in terms of contribution, at least monetary contribution. We still haven't met our total goal for product contribution, you know, product being, of course, the feminine hygiene product. So, you know, willfully, what we're getting from the monetary contributions will cover that. And then, of course, we still got, matter of fact, I have to pick up a shipment tomorrow evening, but we still have some shipments coming in here and there. So, you know, willfully that will, you know, we won't end up short. It'll take us to where we need to go in terms of that, man. You know, that's what we're working towards. And let me see something. I'm over here talking to y'all and working at the same time. Talk about multitasking. I got a couple of screens up here, trying to get some work done. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, all right. Yeah, man. I'm gonna talk to you all, and at the same time, I'm going to review an email for for something that was sent to me, and I'm also going to finish the last part of this proposal that I'm working on. We're going to do all of that at the same time, and that's why this is going to be done pretty quickly. But yeah, so like I was saying, the rap piece is um is going pretty well. You know, we haven't gotten, like I said, all of the pieces in terms of the products, but you know, for those who are supporting and still want to support, please definitely still send in products, still send in monetary support, because um, you know, we're still putting the packages together, and we are a little short. And really, what we're banking on, in some instances with the shelters, is that honestly, there's some older women in some of the shelters, and some of them are no longer having their cycle anymore. You know, so that will allow us to cut down a little bit from our original number. You know, and hopefully, willfully, if we're short, you know, we'll be okay. Just in that sense, and of course, the monetary contributions are helping out tremendously to make up for some of that, man. But yeah, man, I just wanted to update those of you who've been active with that. And of course, once everybody gets up and going in the dawning, you know, you'll see this and you'll get that information. And you know, of course, like I've been saying, my focus is been All Whores Go to Heaven. It's been my documentary, and I'm really excited about the level of anticipation that people have expressed and displayed about the work, you know. Of course, there's those who've kind of like, most of the ones who've shied away and been like, I'm not really feeling it, they've done it quietly, you know, so it hasn't been a thing where it's like people are railing like, oh my God, what are you doing? You know, it hasn't been that. And maybe also too, because over the years I've been doing so much work that maybe people haven't totally understood initially, that they just kind of learned that maybe the frequency is a little different. So it's not unexpected that, you know, he would do something like this, you know. But those who have sat long enough to learn and listen, man, have been really, it seems already, have really been enhanced by just the information that's been presented about the actual documentary, and you know, about just, you know, just the science, you know, of what a horror is, and how it intertwines in family and nation building, and you know, just overall cultivation of femininity, man. So that's been real cool. But there's something I wanted to kind of touch on for those who are maybe on the fence. And please definitely still go to the Kickstarter. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the Kickstarter here, and I'll put it in the description somewhere. All right. But yeah, man, you know, for those who want to see the actual documentary happen, and really see what it's about, please, you know, contribute. You know, if you want to really be a part of it, and you want to really see it happen, and you want to see it really pop off, then, you know, contribute and be a part of that. But, you know, there's an important thing that I wanted to mention in terms of like some who've asked, like, well, in terms of the actual subject matter, in terms of, what's up, Naija, if I pronounce your name properly. All right. But you know, for those who've really had some curiosity around, you know, I guess the boldness it takes to approach certain subjects, or maybe even the nerve to approach certain subjects like that, especially for someone like myself who's had a background in community building and have initiated hundreds of people and things like that. It almost seems like a hard left turn, but it's really not. And if you really listen to some of the explanations and really kind of how we've already started to go a little deeper into what it means, you'll see that no, it's along the same lines of really evolving light inside of yourself. But when we speak about like what we would call disobedience to a moral structure or deviation to a moral structure, there's an important part to it, man, that I wanted to really just touch on briefly while like I said, I'm still working on this email. I got to send this off. I'm gonna move stuff around a little for a second. There we go. I got 3 screens up right now. All right, let me bring that down. All right. Maybe y'all can help me finish this proposal. But so yeah, man, a lot of times there's certain things that we have a hankering for in this lifetime, certain things that we imagine ourselves doing or fantasize about doing, but because of our moral indoctrination and our moral structuring and our social engineering, and a lot of times our religious programming, we just can't bring ourselves to doing it. We can't bring ourselves to crossing what would be that line, and it may be things that um, we only share with our best friends or with no one. I remember one time some years ago, a woman who I was with in a very serious relationship, she woke up in the bed, one dawning, and she said, I had an interesting dream. And I was like, oh, what, because I'm always interpreting people's dreams and stuff. And I was like, what you dream about? She said, I dreamt I was having sex in a hotel. And I was like, okay, well, that's normal. She was like, yeah, but I was getting gangbanged by a bunch of white guys. It's like, oh, okay, you know. Um, and obviously, if someone's sharing a dream with you, you don't want to chastise them, because they're sharing your dream, especially if it's someone you're deeply, intimately involved in. And she wasn't Caucasian, by the way. And you know, I said, well, maybe that's something that I said, have you ever fantasized about it? Have you ever fantasized about, having sex with multiple men at the same time? And she was like, no, well, not until now. And I never thought about with a Caucasian. And, it was a whole different level of conversation we were able to have. And of course, I'm not going to condemn someone because of the fantasies that conjure in their mind, because so many things bring a message. But, a lot of times in life, there's certain things that we may think about or we may dream about or we may imagine that we don't necessarily enact because, like I said, we have that programming that creates these very strict borders because we've sought for personal definition. And like when you define something, it's just like a coloring book. You color inside the lines because the lines define the shape. So, it's always a beautiful thing when you see a child or a person, I mean, because adults use coloring books too. But it's always a beautiful thing when you see someone color outside the lines and create their own definition. But ultimately, if a child typically will give you a coloring, and it's all outside the lines, you say, oh no, sweetheart, you're supposed to go inside the lines, right? So stay within the definition, stay within the boundaries, ultimately stay within the limits of what someone else has imagined, so sometimes that ceiling of awareness is blocked because of our commitment and our dedication to something we don't necessarily comprehend, but we feel an allegiance to because it's been programmed deep down into our marrow. So, with a subject like this, I'm noticing, and the team has noticed that uh, women have been pretty excited about the subject matter. Women have, um, some have even asked, like, basically if they can be taught to be whores, aside from just wanting to learn what it is. But like, I've always had a fascination with that and with geisha and with courtesan. And, and with escorts and things like that. But it just seemed like, this dark world that I shouldn't go into. But to hear you talk about it openly, and the thing is with the documentary, I'm explaining like it's not something to play with. And that's part of what the problem has been lately. People have played with it. It's like, we throw that word around, oh, you a hoe, you a hoe. And it's really disrespectful to the real horse, you know? So a lot of times though, back to this thing of boundaries and definitions, man, a lot of times we have a hankering to do certain things because it's something that we came to do. A lot of times we look at our purpose and we always see our purpose as being very lofty and very idealistic and really being, full of piety and righteousness. And my purpose is to help people, and my purpose is to save the community or to save children or to teach this or teach that. And it always takes you into this place that's really, really where it's expressing your loftiest ideas. But we could never imagine that our purpose is to do something that we didn't do before. And that thing that we may not have done before may not be what one would consider the healthiest thing. So sometimes a person will come into this existence and they'll have certain leanings towards things that society considers to be wrong. And the reason they have that leaning is because it's a part of the full experience that they're supposed to have as a deity living a human reality. So it's like I don't know if there's anyone who is big on like food and trying things out. I know I'm a person like just I tend to be kind of adventurous. I like to try things out. I'm more of a thrill seeker probably than just adventurous, but um I know I don't necessarily enjoy the company of people who want to keep things pretty consistent. Like every time you go to a restaurant, you pretty much order the same thing, no matter where you're at. Or it's got to taste like something that they've had before, or all of their experience have to be the same. You say something like, "Hey, you want to go to the woods? You want to go hiking?" Well, no, I don't do that, or I only do this, and they kind of keep themselves within very defined lines, and sometimes they draw those lines, but they don't realize that time is a very interesting deity. It's a time is its own dimension, and whenever you're dealing with dimensions are created to give you different angles of possibilities. So just like you have a spatial dimension, and the spatial dimension allows you a different levels and different opportunities of possibility to take because there's space. Well, time does the same thing, and as time progresses, even though we may have done something before, we may have said, okay, well, for the past 5 or 10, 15 years, this is what I've done. The reality is, as time moves forward, we get the opportunity to carve a different way in time, or to create a new dimension, a new path of time, which then, of course, creates a new identity, which so many people are afraid of. So they lock themselves into a time. Say the time is 2002, right? And how they came to define themselves in 2002 dictates the rest of their life. So essentially, as time is moving forward, they're not taking advantage of all the possibilities and all the avenues that time has allotted to them. So it's just like coming into this world to become something different. And most importantly, something that we've not been before. And regardless of what social structure says, what you are as a deity should always be paramount to any identity that you connect yourself with. So you might say, well, I'm an American. This is what we do. I'm Jamaican. This is what we do. I'm Nigerian. This is what we do. I'm from the UK. This is what we do. And whenever you have that, this is what I do, or this is what we do, and you pin yourself into an identity group in that way, then you block yourself off from being something new. And ultimately, you came to the planet to be something new, not to be something you are already. Time gives you that blessing. It's very similar to how when we speak about a stream and we say, you can never put your foot in the same stream twice because it's just like life. That's what the stream really represents, or Oshun, or Oya, or Yemonja, or Ajay Saluga, or Oba, or all those different Mami water archetypes, Olokun. What they represent is that consistent passing strain of time, and life, how life is always unfurling and moving forward. It's always unfurling. And no matter if you want to submit yourself to a moment and say, I'm going to stand here forever, it's still moving around you. And because water also erodes, it's still changing you. So you may stand in the water and say, well, I'm standing still. But if you're still a part of the life continuum, if you're still a part of what we call life, then that means it's moving around you. And as it moves around you, it changes you. If you put your feet in a stream for an hour or two, you take them out, you notice they feel different. They look different because the water itself took some of the cells, some of the dead cells off of your skin. So it's the same thing with time. It's always moving. It's always moving. It's always marching forward and giving us an opportunity to choose different and be different. It's very similar to what Aleister Crowley said when he said, do what thou wilt, and that's the whole of the law. And he essentially was speaking about free will. And, you know, your desire, your ability to enact what you freely originate, what you freely say, this is my thought. Oh my goodness, I have original thought. And move from that thought into action. You see, that's the whole of the law, because a thought turning into an action becomes a universal law. When the Most High Supreme Being, or that supreme intelligence begins to think about something and it unfurls, it drops from that thought realm to the physical realm. And the next thing you know, once it goes in, and all these spirits are formed from it, Akbar Ato, Brother Anwar. Yeah, man. Yeah, I was sneaking this late night chat in, actually, a little bit of subscribers, but yeah, I wanted to give, and I'll repost the video somewhere else later. But yeah, man, having that opportunity to say, no, I'm gonna be something different, man. And it may not fit again where say, well, I come from a long line of priests, or I come from a long line of this or that. It may be like when we talk about all whores go to heaven. Part of the reason for a documentary like this is to give individuals who are living a certain life, who have a certain pull, because if you've never been in the pull towards it, it's hard to imagine the organic pull. This is what excites me. And honestly, the game, not just in terms of like that lifestyle, but any type of thing where you're kind of functioning outside of the box, functioning outside of boundaries, and to some degree functioning as an outlaw outside of what social law has dictated, it does become addictive. If any of you have ever, I mean, shoot, even as a child, shoplifting, as a child, like taking some candy, that type of shoplifting. I mean, like heavy, but I mean that too. But as a child, taking some candy out of the store, and that for some they felt like, wow, that was exhilarating. I want to do that again. So there's a pull towards it, and sometimes we look at those pulls and we say that's your lower nature talking, because a lot of times we figure whatever someone is doing that doesn't comply with what we consider to be moral is lower vibration. But sometimes your unwillingness to move beyond your definition is your lower vibration. And you can move into righteousness or you can move in debauchery. But the bottom line is you got to move. And no matter what you're thinking, no matter how good you believe you are, at some point and in some lifetime, you've done everything. Remember, we're all one. And we're divine beings having a human experience. For some of us having a human experience, for some having something a little different. But either way, we're divine beings choosing a variety of experience. So you might imagine in your mind, because you came through a certain identity group, that I've never done that and I never would, and my ancestors never did. But when you get beyond the idea of your identity group, you'll realize that even things that people are doing today that I disagree with, they're doing that because maybe they have to do it because they've never done it before. However foul it may be. And I know that a lot of times may invoke a lot of emotions in people. And may say, well, what about people who do this? And what about people who do that? Just because you have a vehement feeling about it, okay. Just because you have a vehement feeling about it doesn't necessarily mean that the universe, which is an objective space, has the same type of feeling about it. You know, in our human form, we begin to judge. And once we judge, well, we just can't believe certain things would be. You know, it's impossible that a person would have to come here and rob banks, or a person would come here and participate in certain sexual activities or certain sexual lifestyle, knowing that it's anti-nature and this and that. And we have all the different ways to intellectualize why someone else shouldn't be doing something. But the truth is, we're all responsible for our journey, and someone else's action should never become your karma. That's always silly. You know, when we look at things that other people do, and then we take on their decisions as if it was ours. But the variety of existence, man, is going to create even more things. It's going to create even more wrong things that we're going to do. That's just what it's going to be. Because every time we try to find a shelter in which we can lock our identity in, that shelter is going to be blown apart and we're going to have to do something else. Like a good example, if you look at the conscious community now, man, it's a joke. And when I say it's a joke, like people are joking on it, you know, like the whole Hoteppers thing, which is like so foul because to take a word like that, such an ancient and sacred word that's been ours for so long, but because of, again, the foolish actions of only a handful of people. And it's funny, if you listen to some of my segments, like back in like 2010, 2011, I warned about that. I said, you know, if you keep acting stupid like this, you're going to cause outsiders to blaspheme against this sacred work. Here we are. So now you say Hotep, people will be, what? Oh, you one of them. And they don't even know what it means or anything, but they're blaspheming against a very sacred term, you see? So people who came in and destroyed or helped to destroy the community, those who, you know, went overboard with the debates, with the scams, you know, with the bringing all of the very strong religious thought into the community that never, we were never about religion. So why are we doing debates against religious people, you know, or people who brought in a whole lot of pseudoscience or a whole lot of just gutter behavior, from fights to excess profanity to just aggressive ignorance. Like we could just go down the list of all the, you know, probably we could say over the past maybe 6 7 years, all of the scummy stuff that has come into the conscious community and all the dignity that it's lost, and as a result, what it's become, right? Okay. But that just means we have to do something different now. That's all. You know, when the kitchen gets too hot, sometimes you gotta go outside. You know, if you ever cook something on a hot day, man, sometimes you just gotta get out the kitchen, but you gotta breathe. Whew. You know, before you can go back in. This is an opportunity to get out of a hot kitchen and breathe and take all of this glorious and wonderful information we've been compiling over the years and now go out into the actual community and apply some of it and apply it creatively and put it in places that we never thought it would be because we were so comfortable in our cove until a couple of idiots came in and and destroyed it, you know. But they were supposed to come in and destroy it, you know. That's how you gotta. And when things begin to stagnate, to get them moving again, most of the time you have to ferment them. And when you ferment them and let them rot, then what evolves is new life out of the rot. You see, facts. Omar says those actions from those idiots has newcomers with they. I guess it got cut off. Yeah, but you know, there's been a sub rumbling of idiocracy in the conscious community for a long time now. I've been peeping it, and you know, you don't always want to talk on things, but and maybe I'll speak on some things another time. But there's been a lot of dumb stuff happening. Um, it's just like when we look at the community in general. You know, a lot of times we say, "Man, back in the days it was like this," and my grandparents had it like that, and my parents were like this. So when I was a child, it was like this or like that. But we never look at the reality that if it was all that, then things would be better today. Like I said before, your grandmother was crazy, grandpa was crazy. You know, we've been crazy since we started to formulate into human form. We've been crazy. So this fascination with the good old days doesn't really exist. You know, I hear people talk about that in the '70s, man. Back in the '70s, man, they was lynching y'all like it wasn't even an issue. Back in the '80s, when man, oh, you mean the '80s, the height of the crack and the AIDS era, which spilled over into the '90s, you know, and the great recession of the '90s. You talking about those good old days, you know what I mean? So, of course, we can always romanticize and fantasize about how things were before, but the reality is, when you truly look at it, man, there's this constant fermenting and rotting that's going on. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And anytime you think that you found yourself a personal heaven, you know, the universe is going to reveal it for the truth that really sits inside of it. So when you looked at the conscious collectives and said, "Oh man, this is beautiful. This is it. This is where I'm gonna be forever," the universe said, "No, it's not. This is a stop off. What are you doing? Okay, let me show you what this really is. Let me show you who's really in here, and let me show you how fragile and feeble it is, the type of people that will easily be able to infiltrate it and bring it down to the ground. Basically, just bring it down to the ground. I'm going to show you that you could be a part of these movements for 15, 20 years and nothing will ever be amassed. And if that doesn't bother you, then something's wrong with you. You know? So yeah, man, I just wanted to share that, man. You know, just in terms of like sometimes the judgment that I see that people have on people in certain lifestyles or people who engage in certain activities. I just want you to understand that a lot of times people are balancing out their experience, their cosmic experience, not the human experience. You know, a lot of times people are balancing out what they were or were not before. And in the spiritual realm, there's no good or bad. Even though here, because of our morality, we say, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But usually, what we don't want someone to do, or we do want them to do, is based on our own advantage and gain. Well, we don't want people to rob things from other people because we don't want to be robbed, you know, or don't hurt other people because we don't want to be hurt, you know. But the reality is that um, the universe is a wild place, you know. With all kind of amazing explosions and implosions and high density activities that are always going to be a part of evolution, man. So we're creating those. So we're gonna mirror that, and it's gonna mirror us. Let me get that full sentence. Facts. Those actions from those idiots has newcomers with the skepticism, and they use titles like pseudo on natural facts. Yeah, but you know what? On why? I mean, I would say you're absolutely right, man. And it's like people are approaching with skepticism, but if you think about it, it's probably healthier for them anyway. They probably shouldn't come in. You know what I mean? Like it's like at this point, it's almost like joining a church full of pedophiles. You know, you're coming in to get healing, you're coming in to get help, but you're walking into a den of wolves. And that's what the community has become, man. So in many instances, man, this is better for people to hang back, man. Stay back. Don't even come in there because it's not safe. A lot of these organizations are not very organized. They're not ran by people with good character. And as a people, unfortunately, we've become so lax in our own personal character building that we haven't been really been able to identify good character in other people, man. So yeah, man. All right, so I just wanted to leave that quick thing, man. I might even do another live, but maybe I might do Facebook or something. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do Facebook, and then I'm gonna get out of here. I don't know, for some reason I'm in a live thing tonight, but I wanted to put something on this channel because I haven't I haven't put anything on this. I don't know. I got so many channels, man. I had to go through them, man. I got like 15, 20 channels, but yeah, man. All right. So just think about that, man. Some of the things that you have a desire and a hankering to do is not because you're a horrible person. It's just because you have to fill out your full experience, and you're being called to do it by your spirit. And don't be so afraid all the time, and don't be so scared that something's looking over your shoulder that's going to punish you. You know, the reality is, the heaviness of your heart is the only thing that punishes you. All right.